Hi, and welcome back to The Deep Dive. We're the podcast where we really dig into the sources and pull out the nuggets of knowledge you can actually use. And today we've got something a bit different, maybe even a little adventurous. It's a story, a real canine caper that's not just fun, it's actually a brilliant way to see how language works.
That's absolutely right. Our mission today really is to get lost in this charming story about two dogs.
Yeah.
And while we're there, we'll pull out some really useful vocabulary. We want to show you how seeing words in a story like this helps them stick, makes them genuinely useful.
Yeah, context is everything, isn't it? So for this deep dive, we're looking at two main things. The story itself, that's the Mariner's Mystery, a canine caper. That gives us our adventurous plot. And then for the nitty-gritty, the definitions and the context for the words, we're using the Learn Vocab Fast series, Book 1 and Workbook 2 specifically.
So why should you care about a couple of dogs stealing fish? Well, it's more than just a cute story. It's a fantastic demonstration, really, of how vocabulary comes alive. It's not just lists. When you see words used well in a memorable situation, they become anchors. So you'll get a great little tale and some new words that hopefully will feel instantly familiar because you've seen them in action.
Okay, let's get into it then. The Mariner's Mystery. Try and picture this. It's early morning, foggy harbor, really quiet, pale mist everywhere. And the only sound is like the soft slap of water against this old fishing boat. And right there, balanced on the front, the bow, is Scarlet. She's a dachshund. And her red coat is super bright against all that gray mist. Really striking visual.
It really is. Sets a mood straight away, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Very atmospheric. You're right there in the quiet harbor. And then our other main character shows up.
He does. Padding onto the deck, all energy, is Rocky. He's a terrier, short black fur. And the script says he moves with gusto. We'll come back to that word. Meanwhile, Scarlet's taking it all in, using her nose. She smells the harbor, and the word used is maritime, salt, a bit of diesel, and crucially, fresh snapper, fish.
The snapper, the target. And that word maritime immediately tells you where you are, doesn't it? It's not just sea smells. And Rocky, he smells it too. His brain's already working. You can almost see him narrowing his eyes. He's planning what he calls a simple mission.
Get the fish a fat snapper, apparently, that's near the boat's mast before someone else does.
Simple mission, maybe. But Rocky, he has to frame it dramatically, doesn't he? He calls it a heist, which, for stealing a fish, it's quite something.
Oh, absolutely. Heist. It definitely ramps up the drama, at least in his head, makes it sound daring. And he's got this whole plan worked out. His job, the diversion. Knock over a bucket, spill some water, make a noise. Scarlet's job, because she's got acrobatic grace, is to use the distraction to infiltrate and grab the snapper. But Scarlet, she's not just blindly following orders here. She's got thoughts on this. The story says she tilts her head in mock despondent thought, which I love. She basically says, oh, great, another one of your grand plans, reminding him it sounds like a prelude to a grand caper. She's clearly been here before.
Yeah, you get the sense this isn't their first rodeo, right?
Yeah.
She's got experience with Rocky's diversions, and she actually points out that last time, his diversion impeded her, got in her way more than it helped. It's a great little moment. Shows their history, adds some humor.
But Rocky, totally confident, doesn't let it shake him. He just comes back with, I'm a veteran of deck raids, this time precision. You can just imagine Scarlet thinking, oh, brother.
Yeah.
Though the text just says her eyes hold a filament of defiance. Subtle, but it's there.
That filament of defiance, that's such a good detail, isn't it? It's not shouting, it's just this tiny thread of her own mind, her own independence. Adds so much. Anyway, the planning stage is over fast. There's this brief interlude, and then action.
Showtime. Rocky, aiming for precision this time, knocks the bucket over. Calculated force, it says. Water splashes. Scarlet sees her chance. She darts for the table where the fish is, tail like a banner apparently, and she grabs the snapper, described as gleaming in her teeth. Success. Well, almost.
Almost, because just then, complication arrives. A shadow falls, the fisherman's back. And he's described as gaunt, tall in a raincoat. Uh-oh. He sees him, eyes narrow. The game's up. Or is it? Because Scarlet's mind is already working overtime. It's incubating an escape route. Quick thinking needed now.
Totally. And Rocky actually comes through. He barks, sharp barks, draws the fisherman's attention just for a second. Scarlet takes that second, leaps over some rope, lands on the gangplank, ramp to the dock. Rocky falls and boom, they're off, running down the pier. They regroup under some nets, catch their breath.
Phew, made it. And Scarlet finally drops the fish, the gleaming snapper, and she pants closer than I like. You can feel the adrenaline, can't you?
Definitely. Rocky, though, he's already recovering. Licking salt off his nose, probably smirking a bit. He jokes they might have bent a few maritime laws. Nice callback. But, importantly, they refrain from total disaster. Managed chaos? Maybe. And Scarlet gets the last word. She suggests, maybe with a smile, next time, we impose a better exit strategy after dinner. Perfect ending.
It's just such a fun story. And what I love is how it makes those vocabulary words.
Yeah.
Well, they just pop, don't they? You don't just read maritime or gusto. You feel what they mean because of Scarlet and Rocky.
Exactly. You feel them. So let's do that now. Let's unpack some of those key words, those vocabulary nuggets that really brought the story to life. We should start right at the beginning with Scarlet smelling those maritime scents.
Right. Maritime. The definition is straightforward, connected with the sea or navigation. But in the story, it does so much more, doesn't it? It's not just ocean smell. It evokes the whole harbor scene. The salt, the boats, maybe fish, maybe diesel. It creates an entire atmosphere. It's a precise word that paints a much richer picture than just sea-related.
Totally transports you. Okay, next up, Rocky's entrance. He padded along with gusto. Gusto is defined as enthusiasm and enjoyment. What more does it capture here?
Well, it's not just mild enthusiasm, is it? Gusto suggests a real energy, a kind of hearty, full-bodied enjoyment in what he's doing. You picture Rocky being really eager, almost bouncing along, totally into the idea of this mission. It captures his lively spirit perfectly, adds that sense of joyful energy.
Yeah, I can see him wagging his tail like mad. Okay, the Scarlet's reaction to the plan, that mock despondent thought. Despondent means feeling hopeless or in low spirits, but the mock part changes everything, right?
Completely. That's the key. Despondent alone is quite heavy, quite sad, but mock despondent. That tells you she's putting it on. She's being dramatic, maybe rolling her eyes inwardly. It highlights her playful skepticism, her wit. She's not actually hopeless, just pretending to be overwhelmed by Rocky's ambitious planning. It adds layers.
Makes her feel very real. And she called his plan a prelude to a grand caper. A prelude is an introduction to something more important. How does that word frame things?
It sets the tone really nicely. A prelude suggests something bigger is coming. So Scarlet using it implies that this little fish theft is just the warm-up act for some much grander, maybe slightly ridiculous scheme in Rocky's imagination. It adds a touch of irony, a bit of self-importance to their whole adventure.
And sticking with Scarlet's subtlety, that amazing phrase, filament of defiance. Defiance is bold resistance. But why filament? What does that add?
Oh, filament is brilliant here. It means a thin thread, like a single strand. So it tells you her defiance isn't loud or aggressive. It's subtle. It's fine, almost invisible, but it's definitely there. It suggests this quiet inner strength, this thread of independence running through her, even when she's going along with the plan. Just beautiful, precise word choice.
It really is. Shows, doesn't it? Okay, she also mentioned that Rocky's last diversion impeded her. Impeded means delayed or obstructed. What's the significance of using that word?
It tells you something practical about their past failures, doesn't it? Impeded means he actually got in her way, put an obstacle there. It wasn't just unhelpful, it actively hindered her. So it underscores the lesson learned. Bad diversions are worse than no diversion. It's about teamwork, even in mischief.
Right. And Rocky's response. To declare himself a veteran of deck raids. A veteran is someone with long experience. What's that tell us about Rocky's self-image?
It tells us he thinks pretty highly of his skills, despite maybe some evidence to the contrary. Veteran implies authority, experience, being seasoned. Rocky genuinely sees himself that way. He gives him this sort of endearing, maybe slightly comical self-assurance. He's not easily put off by past mistakes, that's for sure.
Definitely not. Okay, moving on. Between planning and action, there was that brief interlude. An interlude is a break or pause between events. What effect does that pause have?
It actually builds a bit of suspense, I think. The fact that it's brief, the interlude is short, it emphasizes how quickly they move from talk to action. It's that little moment of quiet before the storm, that intake of breath. It draws you in, makes the coming action feel more immediate.
Yeah, you feel a shift. And then the fisherman shows up, the gaunt figure. Gaunt means extremely thin and bony. Why describe him that way? Why is that impactful?
Gaunt creates a really strong visual. It's not just thin. It often carries connotations of hardship, maybe looking a bit worn down, even slightly intimidating. It makes the fisherman more memorable, more of a distinct character rather than just the man. It adds a touch of grittiness, maybe. Makes the threat feel a bit more real for our heroes.
Right, raises the stakes. And under pressure, Scarlet's mind is incubating an escape route. To incubate means maintaining under specific conditions for development. That's an interesting word choice for thinking.
It really is. Incubating suggests something more than just thinking. It implies this rapid, almost organic process of development, like the plan is forming quickly, precisely under the specific pressure of the moment. It highlights her strategic mind, her ability to problem solve almost instinctively when things get tough. Very cool use of the word.
Now, there's a word from the list that wasn't in the story itself, but worth touching on. Memento. It's an object kept as a reminder of a person or event. How could that relate here, even though they didn't keep the fish?
That's a good one. It shows how vocabulary helps us interpret, right? So, no, the snapper didn't become a physical memento, but the experience,
Yeah.
the heist itself, that absolutely becomes a memory, a shared story between them, a kind of intangible memento of their daring adventure, their partnership. It makes you think about how memories themselves act as mementos, doesn't it?
That's a really nice way to connect it. Okay, back to the text. Rocky said they refrained from total disaster. To refrain means to hold back or avoid doing something. What does that imply about them?
It implies a degree of control, maybe, even amidst the chaos and the rule-breaking. Refrained suggests they consciously avoided letting it get completely out of hand. They pulled back from the brink. Adds a little touch of maybe responsible mischief. They know where the line was, perhaps.
Responsible mischief. I like that. And Scarlet's final line, they need to impose a better exit strategy. To impose is to force something on someone without invitation. What's the playful hint there?
It's definitely aimed at Rocky, isn't it? Impose suggests she wants to take charge next time. Force her ideas, her undoubtedly better strategy, onto his perhaps slightly less thought-out plans. It hints at her wanting more control, a more organized approach to their next caper. Shows her personality, that quiet strength again.
And the fish itself, the prize, was near the mast. Simple word. A tall, upright post on a ship. Why mention it?
Location, location, location. The mast just grounds the action. It gives you a clear visual anchor point for where the snapper is. Makes the target concrete, easy to picture, simplifies the scene in your mind, makes the whole plan clearer.
Makes sense. And the snapper wasn't just a snapper, it was gleaming. Used twice. Gleaming means shining brightly. Why repeat it?
Repetition for emphasis, right? It highlights how desirable the prize is. Gleaming, when she grabs it, shows the thrill, the value. Gleaming, even after the escape reinforces its worth, what they risked it all for, keeps that image of the prize bright and shiny in your mind, makes the success feel, well, shinier.
Nice. Okay, last one. Back to that filament of defiance. We talked about defiance, bold resistance, but filament, that thin thread. Why is that specific word so key for Scarlet?
It's all about the quality of her defiance. It's not overt. It's not shouting. A filament is tiny, fine, but it's still there. It suggests her inner strength is subtle but strong, woven into her character. Even when she goes along, that little thread of, I have my own mind, remains. It's just perfect characterization in one tiny word.
It really is powerful. And finally, the word Rocky used to frame the whole thing. Heist, meaning a robbery or daring theft. What did starting with that word do for the story?
It set the entire tone. Heist immediately makes it sound exciting, planned, a bit daring, maybe even glamorous in a funny way. It lifts it from just dog steal fish to something more like a mini-movie plot. Makes it playful, adventurous, and gets you rooting for these two furry little criminals right from the start. And, host, looking back at all these words, it's just so clear how the story makes them stick. They're not just definitions on a page. They're attached to actions, to characters, to feelings. That's how you really learn them.
Absolutely. So what's the takeaway for you listening in? Well, hopefully you've seen through Scarlet and Rocky's little adventure. You've not only got a fun story, but you've got a feel, a real context for words like maritime, despondent, heist, impeded. You felt how they add color, precision, and life to a story. That's what a deep dive can do. Uncover those connections that make knowledge really land. And hopefully make it enjoyable, too.
Definitely. And it's a great reminder, isn't it, that learning opportunities, little linguistic gems, can be found in the most unexpected places. Like a story about two dogs. There are always layers if you look closely enough.
So here's a thought to leave you with. What about your own everyday experiences? Could you find richer words to describe them if you paused to think? And maybe, just maybe, understanding nuances in words like defiance or impose or even interlude, could that change how you see the little missions or interactions in your own life? Keep looking, keep questioning, keep an eye out for those little filaments of insight everywhere. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time.